there.
Sure, that's only because maybe some two or three other partners will want to see this conversation. So, and okay, I don't know has anybody presented? Yeah. So we are gonna ask you many questions. You will see that probably you will speak more than we will, but that's because we are beginning something here. We are creating something from zero, so we can use pretty much of your experience. So okay, let's. I don't know how to begin, Agus. But if you want guys to explain a bit how you work, when do you have your meetings, how are you working now in the pandemics, for how long you debate, weekly, monthly, how are your schedules, just how you make this happen.
Okay, I'll try to formulate an answer to all of those elements. Basically, some history first, because there is an important, I would say, maybe difference, or at least thing to take into account in our European cooperation, is that obviously 60 years ago, a bit more now, the European Union started. So already at the government level, countries came together and said, okay, some parts of governing we are not longer going to do in our own country, but we're going to do with all the countries together. So that means that on today, certainly in terms of agriculture, almost, I would say 90% of legislation is decided at the EU level. So is no longer decided in Belgium, is no longer decided in France, but is decided all together. So there is let's say an automatic relevance for us to also try to lobby the European Union and not just our countries. Now, in 1958, so 62 years ago, the young farmer organizations, which were already there in Belgium, in France, in Italy, in Germany, in the Netherlands, and in Luxembourg, so the starting countries of the European Union, decided to also organize common meetings between them. And so they started to meet, and then throughout the decades, the organization has grown together with the European Union. So now the European Union has 27 member states, European countries, and also as CEJA, we have members from 24 countries. So we don't have all of them yet, or anymore, it depends a bit, but we are in contact with almost every single region in the European Union. How do we work practically? Basically, we have monthly working groups, which means that every month, approximately, sometimes it's a month and a half, sometimes it's a bit less than a month, but approximately every month, we have representatives of each organization, so of each country, coming together. Normally we do it here in Brussels or somewhere in Europe, and then we do some farm visits and so on, and we have 1 or 2 days of discussion. And during those 2 days, we discuss on a predefined topic. So for example, yesterday and the day before, we had a meeting with all of our representatives, and we discussed international trade at the one side, and we discussed about the green architecture, so which is a bit the environmental policy related to agriculture in Europe. And so on the forehand, our organization also has a board, which is a mandate of 2 years, which is 5 people, so 1 president and 4 vice presidents, who are elected by our European young farmers, and who have to guide the organization. So both making sure that the organization financially works, that the lobbying is done, and so on, but also make sure that every now and then the organization also has new positions to be brought forward. So they, in cooperation with our office, prepare all the meetings on beforehand. So we have an office in Brussels, which has around 5 people, so it's rather small in scale, which has 5 people who work for us, and so who have a direct relation with the 5 people who are elected. But then obviously our national young farmer organization, so for example my young farmer organization here in Belgium, also has employees and a board of themselves. And in France, for example, they have 50 employees and a board of themselves. Um, as a young farmer, I am a member of the Belgium Young Farmer Organization, and the Belgium Young Farmer Organization is a member of the European umbrella. So as a young farmer, we cannot be a direct member of our umbrella. So we don't have any direct members ourselves. Our members are national organizations who then meet 10 times a year around certain topics. With the COVID pandemic now, everything is online, obviously. We cannot travel or meet. So we try to have 2 days in which we have sessions of 2 hours. So 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon, in which we discuss. It is a lot harder, like this is a lot harder than if we would be together in one room. But at the end of the day, because we also work around the document and we really create a position which everybody can agree around, that still works.
That was very clear. Thank you. And please, guys, if you want to ask some question, interrupt me, because I will go ahead always. But I see that 24 members, right? 24 countries you mentioned. So I imagine that's a lot of countries, and debates and discussions must be very interesting. And so you have like 2 hours during one morning, 2 hours in the afternoon, then you have the other day, and at the end you have to come up with a solid thing. Okay, you have with the agreement, with a document in where I don't know if you end up thinking about some proposal to the European Council, or you just gather the most important ideas in those days and you put them in the document? What's the objective of the, maybe the question is, what's the objective of this final document?
Yeah. So the topics that we discuss, those are very often fixed on beforehand. So we already knew in June that in autumn time, for us autumn time this year, we would discuss international trade and the environmental policy. And so what we did is we started already in the summer with drafting some specific questions to our organizations, or already started with some ideas, and we shared them with them and then asked them for feedback. And then we in September already discussed it the first time, 2 days, where we so the board and the office, we prepared the text based on our own inputs, and obviously that input comes from talking to the different member organizations and young farmers. So we have a broad idea, I would hope, on what they believe is needed, and then we discuss it and we adapt, and we discuss it again and we adapt, and we ask them to react. And so actually what happened yesterday was only the last stage of a 3-month process in which we start. So in essence, what we do is we first ask our members, okay, what are the topics we need a position on? Because obviously we can talk about everything, but you only have a limited capacity as young people, because we work, except for the 5 people in our office, everybody else does this on voluntary basis. So I mean, people cannot do this full time, so you are limited in what you can do. So we define on beforehand, okay, these are the 5 topics we want to position around this year. So sometimes that is something we want to do ourselves, like international trade, that had no particular reason why we are doing this now, but our members felt, I'll give it as an example, the trade agreement that the European Union is trying to make with the Mercosur region. Well, that there were some defensive areas in the European Union, or for some specific sectors like our beef production. So to say, okay, we need to have a public stand as European young farmers on what is necessary in international trade, what is good, but also what we cannot accept. And so those are a bit the discussions we have. And so we said, okay, maybe in the last months of 2020, we need to discuss that so that we also have a position. That one is not finished yet. So only in November, so on the, what is it, Marianne, the 16th of November, we have another working group where our members come together, and then we will try to finalize our position. So now we already have written eight pages of elements that we think are important in a text. And we will give a last chance in the coming 2 weeks for our members to send amendments in. So just an email with, okay, we want to change this sentence into whatever. And then we have a last discussion in November, and hopefully then we can say, okay, now everybody agrees that this is our position. And obviously not everybody thinks that it is the best position possible, because you have 24 different countries, 32 different organizations. So those are also representing 2 million young farmers. I always make the comparison. When I milk the cows together with my brother, when we discuss politics, well, it goes very easy because the two of us, okay, we have a common idea, and after 5 sentences, we know where we stand. Once I go to my village and talk to all the young farmers in my village, which is a 20, it becomes already a bit more difficult when you go to an even bigger meeting. And so at the end of the day, at EU level, we have to do that same conversation with 2 million young farmers. So obviously, we don't always get along on everything. But at a certain moment, we all feel, okay, it's more important that we say something in the name of young farmers, and that it's not 100% what I believe. Okay, I can live with that as long as we have something strong to say, which I can agree with. So yeah, sometimes the main difficulty is making sure that everybody understands that it's not about saying exactly what you believe. It's about making sure that you can impact the European Council or the Commission or the European Parliament. One of the things that we achieved, for example, last week in the European Union, we had last week was a very important week for the Common Agricultural Policy, so the EU agricultural policy, which was voted in the European Parliament and also the European Council, so that are all the agricultural ministers of the different countries coming together. And they came forward with their view for the next 7 years of agricultural policy. And one of the things we achieved was that at least 4% of the budget would be spent towards specific interventions for young farmers, where today it's only 2%. So that was a doubling of the amount of money, which we could only achieve because everybody in our structure pushed the right buttons in their lobbying to make sure that everybody voted in the right way. Does that mean that everybody in our structure agreed with what we are fighting for? But no, some people wanted to be 5%, and some people said, no, 3% is enough. But okay, you come to a compromise and you say, okay, every step forward is a good step forward.
Well, congratulations for that achievement. And that's a good example that we would like to hear more examples about what policies you helped deliver to the European Council. So it's pretty clear for me now that you are the young part of the agriculture think tank, I would say, that tries to, well, would you define yourselves a think tank? And if, I don't know if not, but you are that part, that agricultural young part that drives changes, that tries to bring changes to the European Council, okay? And then you have another, I don't know, how agriculture, is there another meeting, let's say, of the agriculture in general, not only young people, that tries to deliver changes to the European Council?
Yeah. On your first question, I would not define ourselves as a think tank. A think tank works a bit more independent in the sense that what for me a think tank is 10 people thinking and coming out with an idea. That is not what we do. What we do is we create an idea, but then we need the support of 2 million young farmers before we can call it our idea. So we are a representation rather than a think tank. A think tank doesn't necessarily represent anyone. We represent people and a lot of people for that matter. We are also not the young part of the farming representation. Well, we are obviously, but we are independent of them. My first, and I will always say, my first and foremost partners are the senior farmer organizations, so the normal farmer organizations, but we are independent. So we talk a lot, and obviously we also try to compromise between ourselves and share our lobbying. But at the end of the day, we have our own positions and they have their own positions, and we can try and influence each other. But I can't vote for them and they can't vote for me. So we are independent, and the reason why we think it's so important to be independent or autonomous is that when we talk about young farmer representation, you need to make sure that it is only and exclusively young farmers who say what is the position. Not because we never agree with the other farmers. Obviously, we agree with the other farmers, just like I can agree with my father. But the specific challenges that we face as young farmers, and that is the same in other parts of the world, including Argentina, where it's difficult to access credits for young farmers because you don't have the financial backing that sometimes other farmers have. It is difficult to access land to start farming or to develop your farm. It is difficult for knowledge transfer to really make sure that we have a new generation which is a bit more business orientated or professionally equipped to farm. So those challenges that we face are very common, but are specifically for young people. And so that is why it's important that we also have a specific voice of young people, not just having the chance for a young person to be there in a meeting of ministers, but also to make sure that that young person also has a message from all of his young colleagues to share with the group. So we would define ourselves really as a representative organization rather than a think tank. Obviously, we also think and try to come out with some new ideas, but our first concern is make sure that that idea is represented or is supported by our young farmers in the different regions of Europe. And then to answer your second question, yes, there are some other organizations as well, farmer organizations. So in Europe, you have Copa Cogeca, which is the main farmer organization, and agri cooperatives. They have the biggest representation. Then you also have a specific organization, IFOM, which is also a global organization, so I think you might know them, which is for the organic sector, which represents organic farmers, but also organic retailers and organic processors, so the whole chain. So it's a farmer organization, but also not exclusively farmer organization, so it's a bit double. You have, which I think you will also know, Via Campesina, the paysan, the smallholder farmers representation, which in Europe is a bit smaller because we don't really have such a big spread between large and small. We have a lot of let's say average family farms, which is the vast majority of our farms. So we don't really have that many really big farms and not that many really small farms. So and then besides that, obviously you also have environmental organizations or other organizations who also try to influence the policy. It's not just us.
Nice. So, girls, if you have a question, I'm gonna make a short one. So, what's the criteria for accepting new people, or how old you have to be in order to participate? Till when you define youth in agriculture? What's the official?
So I can't give one answer because again, individual young farmers are never a member of CEJA. They are a member of their national organization, and then the national organization is a member of CEJA. So in Europe, the maximum age for young farmers is 40 years of age. So 40. So that's already quite old, I would say, to still be considered a young farmer. A lot of our organizations, like my own organization here in Belgium, say 35 is the maximum. So half of our organizations have a 35, the other half says until 40. It depends a bit of the culture or of the history. For example, in Greece, Farmers tend to only start farming a bit later than in other countries, so it's normal that they're until 40 you're still young, because people only start to think about farming when they are 35, for example. So it's a bit culturally, it's historically, but 40 is the absolute upper limit. For us as CEJA, when we look at an application from a young farmer organization from one of the European countries to enter the organization, there are a few requirements. One is obviously that they are only young farmers, so that it's not whatever kind of organization that can enter. No, so that they have a structure in which young farmers are elected to represent them, in which the discussions are only held between young farmers and not with other people on board. So that is one. That they have to represent all the sectors, so not just the dairy farmers, or not just the olive producers, or not just the sheep producers. No, that they have to represent all different sectors which are out there. And then thirdly, that they also represent the complete region, or that they are acknowledged to represent the complete region, so that it's not 20 young farmers from one village who say, we are going to represent our country now. No, you need a representation in the whole country. And then fourthly, and that is also crucial, is that there is also no specific scope to what is, there is no specific scope to, for example, scale. So it cannot be only the big farmers or only the small farmers. No, you have to represent the diversity of farms in your country. So those are a few of the parameters that we find important before people can, and obviously that you are based in Europe, not just the European Union, but Europe.
Do you have to pay to be part of?
Sorry, what?
Do you have to pay, that those organizations have to pay something to be part of CEJA?
Yeah, so our financing, so obviously we have to pay 5 members of staff, we have to pay for an office, we have to pay for travel. If I have to go somewhere, we have to pay. So we are in need of a certain budget. We have quite a small budget, so I don't know who will do the translation from monetary units, but I'm just going to explain it in euros. So we have a total budget of approximately 400,000 euros. So Agustina, what is that in Mariana?
But go ahead.
I don't know what the peso is at right now.
No,
Well, approximately.
no sé cuánto ahora, pero
If you go to Rome,
like $500,000, $50,000, right? 40,000.
Yeah, so you are 1 cent is, so it's times 100 approximately. So it's 400. No, it's 40 million pesos then.
could be.
Yeah, 36 million pesos.
Yeah. Okay. So 40 million pesos is our overall budget of the organization. Now again, our own young farmer organizations have their own budget. So my own organization has a 3 million euros. So that's a lot in pesos. 300 million pesos, obviously. And then and our French organization has almost a billion peso organization. But okay, they are very big. So in CEJA, we try to limit it to only what we need. Which is our staff members like Mariana, our office, our travels, and some safeguardings and things that we organize, whatever. So the 40 million pesos that is constructed out of a few contributions. So the most important one is indeed what our members pay. So every organization needs to pay into CEJA. That's the amount which they have to pay depends on the size of the country that they come from, and then combined with the number of organizations that we have in that certain country. So, for example, in Italy we have 3 organizations, whilst in France we only have 1. So the Italians one, well, they divide. So basically, our membership fee is calculated around the country, and then you just divide it amongst the organizations which come from that country. So the biggest countries have to pay almost 20,000 euros. So that is no, 200,000 peso, I guess. Yeah. No, 2 million pesos. Yeah, that's the biggest payment. And then for smaller countries, it drops, and then the smallest they have to pay 3,000. So that's going to be 300,000 pesos. So that is the range in which they have to pay. And then for the rest, we also have some support from the European government to keep our organization steady. We have some support from the senior farmer organization, so the one that I referred to earlier, Copa CEJA. Then we have some support from sponsors that we work with. And then thirdly, we also contribute in projects, and then sometimes we get some money for that, and that can help us as well. But so the vast majority is from our members who indeed pay to, well, not to be a member of us, but it is their organization, so it's normal, I would say.
James, is it common to the farmers to belong to an organization? The most part of the farmers belongs to an organization or not?
Yes, in Europe, and certainly it depends a bit because the European Union, as you might know, so until the late 80s, the European Union was limited to what we call Western Europe, so from the UK to Germany to Italy and everything to the south of that, and then only after the fall of the Soviet Union and the Berlin Wall dropping down, there was an expansion in the 90s and 2000s to the rest of the European Union. And I would say that in what we call old Europe, so Western Europe and the North, so in Scandinavian countries, there is a big culture of being a member of a farm organization, and I would say 95% of farmers are a member of a organization. When you look at the newer countries, so Eastern European countries, there the share of membership is a bit lower, obviously because historically in the Soviet Union, being a member of a bigger organization was not a voluntary choice, but was an obligation, and so there is culturally still a difficulty to cope with that. But okay, with the young farmers, we see that changing already. But in general, we have quite a big representation. So yeah, absolutely. Which is good, but which also makes it a bit difficult because, for example, as CEJA, we are the only ones who represent young farmers. There is no other organization who really represents young farmers at this level, which is obviously good because if I talk to the commissioner or to a minister of agriculture, I can say, look, I speak in the name of all those young farmers. Nobody would question that. But that also means that the young farmers from a very small organic farm in the north of Europe to a very large conventional farm in the south of Spain, I have to represent everyone in between. And so to say what I want to say is a much more challenging because the positions that we take are broader. So it has its advantages, but it's also sometimes a bit more difficult to work with.
So go ahead. Okay. So whenever you bring these proposals to the European Council, what do you rely on the most? You have, for example, some, I don't know how you call them there, deputies or congressmen or congresswomen. You rely on them, or you just have to go onto their secretaries, and that's the way that you have to influence? How do you work there?
So maybe important to sketch is in the European Union we have three institutions, so three bodies that we need to work with. One is what we would call the government of Europe, which is the Commission. So those are 27 commissioners who each have their portfolios, and the Commission present now is von der Leyen. So that is one institution, so the government. Then we have the Parliament, which is a regular parliament with 750 members coming from across Europe. And then we have the council, and the council is a bit special thing because in the rest of Europe you don't, in the rest of the world that doesn't exist. But the council, I would say, is like the Senate in the US. So it has one representative, one minister of each country there. And so Estonia, which is a country with only 2 million people, has the same voice as the French minister, which is a country with 60 million people. So it's really, regardless of the size of the country, every country has one voice, and they have to get along before anything is decided. So for us, our main priority at EU level is the Commission, is going directly to the government. So there we work with the administration, we work with the politicians themselves, we work with members of the cabinet of that politician, and we try to lobby them. We also do a lot in the parliament, but then the council, because those are the national ministers, it is much better. It's much better for our national farmer organization to try to influence them, because as a minister of Argentina, for example, I would be much more eager to listen to my Argentinian young farmers than to the representative of all Latin American young farmers, because I don't vote for the French minister. My French young farmers vote for the French minister. So we have to have a good interaction between what we do at the international level and what we do at the national level, and make sure that what I say in Brussels, also my German members in Berlin say the same thing. So it's a lot of coordination in that sense.
There was a question regarding this new Green Deal. Wada, what was your particular concern?
Yes, I want to ask you, what do you think about the Green Deal, and if this will impact on the farmers and the way that they are producing, and if the consumers are changing the way that they select the different products?
What we think about the Green Deal, well, the objective of the Green Deal is the most important thing that we are facing in our generation. Climate change is the biggest challenge, certainly in the long term, but already in the short term, that we face as farmers, as society, as citizens. And so we need a coherent strategy to resolve that problem. So that is both making sure that the problem goes away, mitigation, but also making sure that as farming sector, as society, we are able to deal with the consequences of climate change as they are already happening today. I don't have to explain to you. I think you feel it even more direct than us. So the idea of a Green Deal, very good, very necessary, very important. Obviously, the difficulty starts when that comes into detail and you start to see, okay, what is actually the effect of certain measures which are taken. And there we are a bit more defensive, because there we see that when people talk about agriculture, very often policymakers are not really aware of what is happening in agriculture, of what is possible in agriculture, of what potential trade-offs are of certain steps in policy. And so there it becomes a bit more difficult. So in the European Union, we have the European Green Deal, which is the overall thing, but then we also have what we call the farm to fork strategy and the biodiversity strategy, which is a part of the Green Deal, but which goes more concrete into agriculture, because the Green Deal also talks about fossil fuels, also talks about energy, about anything. The farm to fork and biodiversity go straight into what is important for farming. And there again, it's very important to have such a strategy. But what is on the table today? First of all, we don't believe that it's the right answer, because it's too much ideology and not enough pragmatism of really making steps forward. And secondly, we are afraid of some of the consequences. So what we are trying to do there is make clear to the different policymakers, like, look, at the end of the day, everybody agrees that we will have to work with farmers to solve the problem. You can't do it without farmers, and you shouldn't do it against farmers. And so we try to explain, okay, as farmers, we have the same ambition, so that is not under the question. But we think that certain measures are potentially good, but certain are potentially destructive for the agricultural sector, and therefore also for the fight against climate change. So it's a bit a difficult one that we are certainly as young farmers a bit tangled in between, because we understand how big the problem is and how urgent our reaction is. But on the other hand, we also know that we need to survive next year and in 5 years on our farms, and so the one cannot go without the other. If you want to reach real sustainability, well, then tomorrow is as important as 20 years from now, and vice versa. So it's about trying to find that balance between and not destroying an economy, but making an economy more resilient and more reactive to some of those environmental challenges, and climate change as the biggest one. Is that an answer to your question? I'm not sure.
Yes.
One of the trade-offs, for example, and you guys will not like this, but I'll give you a notion of what we are discussing. One of the trade-offs that we see is that if we say, for example, beef production in Europe, because beef is cows, and cows are methane producers, so there is an impact on climate, obviously. If we restrict beef production in Europe, or make it more difficult to produce because there are higher standards and so on, we are a bit afraid that if you don't at the same time close your borders for other streams of beef coming into the European Union, that the only thing we will do is destroy our beef production and then let people buy, for example, Argentinian beef, which at the end of the day hasn't solved the problem. So those are some trade-offs that we feel need to be addressed, that we are living, and certainly climate change is a global problem. I mean, it doesn't stop at the border at all. So we also need a global strategy to try and solve it, which includes trade, even though that we think trade is very valuable and very important, but it needs to be done in a way that it's coherent with also internal policies from our point of view.
Yes, I think that also I asked you because we, as we are an agricultural country, most of our economy is based on agriculture. So it could be at the future a huge problem to our farmers, because the changes of the production are very slow. So as a young farmers, we should think about this and how we can improve the changes that we need to be cumplir, ¿cómo se dice?
Yes, you
Accomplish. To achieve?
Yeah.
To achieve the Green Deal. That's
at the global level, at the end of the day, the Green Deal is just the European translation of the Sustainable Development Goals at UN level. And one of the, well, there are two very important baselines at the Sustainable Development Goals. And I think it's very important that as young farmers, we also repeat them, is that one, all those 17 goals, which goes for ending hunger, ending climate change, water quality, education, emancipation of women, all those 17 development goals as defined are equally important. So there is not one more important. All of them need to be achieved altogether, and the whole process needs to be done in a way that nobody is left behind. And I think that is crucial for us to repeat that if you leave behind the agricultural sector, you cannot talk about sustainability, because it's not sustainable to save humankind by destroying humankind. That's not going to work. So you have to go into a balance of trying to go to a better world without losing ourselves in the process. As young farmers, and there I would fully agree with you, we have the advantage that we have the luxury of looking 30 years from now, where I understand that if you are a 60-year-old farmer, that obviously you don't want to change for those last 5 or 10 years. You're going to say, no, if I can continue like this and then it's finished, it's okay, and then I don't have to take a risk or make new investments or do whatever. That's normal. I mean, everybody would react like that. But from our part, it's important that we can also look, okay, for us, the next 5 years are crucial, important, but also 30 years from now are crucial and important.
Nice. So Agus has a question. She has a question prepared, but before I would I would like to return to some boring issue regarding the system, the structure, because that will help us maybe to think to compare how to work and how to come up with ideas. Regarding the national organization, so according to what you explained, you say that, for example, you have an agenda, they discuss locally, the organizations within each country, they take these topics and they discuss, they debate in their commissions, they come up with conclusions. That way they go to the CEJA and it's easy to make an agreement and to prepare the final document. So how do they work within each country? How often they meet? How do they make the agreements and then send the national thought to the CEJA?
Yeah. There is no one answer to that question. But I would say it's a very good thing, but okay, sometimes it's a challenging thing, is that all our member organizations, they work independently. And so they are not the national CEJA chapters. No, we are the European chapter of their organization. And that's an important thing to consider, because in each country, it is the country itself which defines what they want to talk about, how they want to discuss it, and they also have national things to worry about. So they cannot only work around the international stuff. So for us, it's sometimes a bit difficult. We have organizations, and I'll give the example of our French organization, because it's a big one, it's a structured one. They are always very well prepared because they have enough people working for them who can help their own chapters prepare. They have the capacity of working around 10 topics at the same time, so they come prepared. But you have other organizations like our Slovakian organization, which is a small country, also a country where the Young Farmer Organization is mainly working with volunteers, and so they only have one person working for them. And for them, it's much more difficult to come prepared to a meeting. And so we have to balance a bit between some organizations who are ready to make an agreement, and other organizations who first need a bit of input and discussion in order to make their position. So there is not really a one size fits all on that question. Maybe to just picture a bit, in general, our national organizations work around 3 pillars. First of all, there is what we would call the movement, the fun part of it. So they organize, well, not now, obviously, with the COVID, but they organize activities for their members. They go to a bar. They make sure that young farmers have something else to do than just work on the farm. That is the first thing. The second thing is education. So a lot of them work around formation. Is that how you say it? So they make study afternoons, or they have a certain lesson package around new business models, or around organic farming, or around hoof care with sheep, or whatever it is. So a lot of training. And then thirdly is defending the interests of young farmers. So that is the political work. At EU level, we have the political work, obviously, and networking. But so our core activity is a bit different. Our core activity at EU level is really the political representation. That is what we are there for. At national level, the fun part and the educational part is equally important. So yeah, it depends a bit on the topic, whether all our organizations are fully engaged in the discussion, yes or no. But okay, at the end of the day, everybody needs to approve it, or at least a serious majority needs to approve it. So that works.
Perfect.
Great.
You already answered this, but how do you get to the final document? You told us that you work for a month with everyone's participation, but the end of the document where you said this is ready to present, you work it with the staff, the CEJA staff, or with who?
Well, the really last moment of approval is with the members. So that is with the representatives of each organization raising their hand and saying, I approve. And then if we have a majority, and it's a bit more than 50%, so we have, for positions, we need roughly 60% majority of the countries and 60% of the organizations. So it's a double majority that we need in order for us to be sure that what we say is broadly accepted by our membership. So that is the last part, is everybody or the majority raising their hand and saying, I approve. What we try to do is always work towards consensus, meaning that everybody needs to agree. It's only when we feel that is not possible that we go to a vote. But normally we try to make sure that everybody feels represented by the document that we have, which obviously also sometimes makes a document a bit how do you say that? A bit diluted. If you have two extreme positions that don't agree, and we want everybody to agree, well, then you put a sentence there which could still mean either or. So sometimes that's frustrating. But at the end of the day, it's also easy that everybody would at least say, okay, we can support this. So the last point of it is the approval. Before that, we work with the members, with the office, with the board, but it's an ongoing process. So we start with a draft, and then we give the chance to our members to come in with comments, and then we change it again. So with the office, and then we send it again, and they come in with comments again. Then we have a discussion with the members. Then we make another draft. We send it again. They come in with comments. We make it a final draft. We discuss that, and then we approve.
Perfect. Now I understand why so many months to work on it.
Yeah, and the most difficult thing for us now, and that would be the same for you in South America, is that we also have different languages. So in the European Union, we have well, roughly 22 spoken languages. We only discuss in English, but not everybody's level of English is as good as the other. And so sometimes we are discussing about the use of a word which some people think about differently than others. So we lose a lot of time there and a lot of effort. But okay, again, at the end of the day, the most important thing is that people feel represented with whatever we approve. If that is not the case, and there is for example, the representative of our Italian young farmers goes to the commission here in Brussels and says, yes, I know that CEJA says A, but actually we think B, then we are lost, because then we can say whatever politicians will say, yeah, but you don't represent your members. So for us, it's very important that everybody feels represented by the position that we take. And if that takes a month extra, well, then that takes a month extra, but rather that than having an half position, let's say. That doesn't mean sometimes we also push for something. If we feel that it needs to go a bit faster, or if we feel that strategically we can use it in a discussion, but okay, that's up to the board and the office to act upon them.
Okay, perfect. I don't know if someone has any question, or Mariana, do you want to say something?
No, I think Yanis has done a good job of summarizing, and maybe just one thing that, because I'm not a young farmer and I've really come into this as someone who didn't grow up on farms, and something that I thought was not clear at first is the fact that a lot of these young farmers, they join these organizations at national level because it's their core social activity, and it provides this feeling of community and socializing that maybe otherwise isn't so available in especially certain parts of Europe. So I think that's really powerful, and you see that they're very passionate about being members of CEJA and having the opportunity to travel and meet each other and exchange with each other from all over the world. And I think that's also extremely important to it continuing, and there being very incredible conversations where everybody can at the end find things that they all have in common, regardless of how diverse their backgrounds are.
Can I maybe ask what is the exact idea that you guys want to work around? So what I understood from Agustina is to also create some kind of international scoped organization or movement of young farmers, which would limit itself to the continent, or how did you exactly envision it? And have you already made established contact with, for example, young farmers in Brazil, or how far are you?
With the world, not continent, but we think big. Well, Wada or Licha, you can explain that, because you are the first one that start this group. I get in like in, I don't know, 3 months later. So Licha or Wada?
Yeah, I mean, we just born this year, and we are defining the strategies. We don't know exactly where to start to build the international structure. We don't like the word structure because this is a way to connect. This is a net. We don't even are a think tank, for example, but we don't have this organization, these institutions that you have in Europe. Okay. So, I mean, we are taking a lot of good ideas in this conversation, but we cannot apply them. And I mean, like for example, in this sense of organizing the youth, the agriculturers, and present solid documents, ideas, proposals for a parliament to make policies. But at least we want to share discussions and connect with other people to debate, to share ideas, to share agronomy issues and food chain perspectives. We don't know exactly what countries we will summon to our organization. We started with Australia, New Zealand, and United States, but we have a lot of ideas for next year. We will see what is better. Should we start in Latin America? Should we join our brothers in Uruguay, Brazil, Chile, or we should just be totally free? Lucas, you're in the conversation. What any of you guys who want to add something? But yeah, the idea is to create this scenario, this discussion with any other country in the world, with other young people, not only farmers, but like from nutritionists to policymakers or professors. We even had school teachers interested in participate. So so far we have few people we have met a few times. we have a lot of ideas, we have a lot of potential, and I think we will grow a lot next year. Just to say next year, because we are only 2 months until 2021, and we are going out from a pandemic. But go ahead, Eduardo.
Yes. We believe in the importance of being here with the young farmers and to think together about the different about different ideas and the ways that we are producing. So we don't know about an organization where we can be together and think about this. So I think that that is the objective of International Young Farmers. We just are working since 2-3 months, so we have a lot to work.
Well, there are a few organizations that might also be of interest to you. You have Nuffield Scholarship, which is a global organization which organizes.
Yeah, they are not in Argentina yet, but I know them. Yeah, but I know them. They are potential partners.
Yeah. Yeah. Also IPART, the agricultural science students movement across the world. Then you said the Youth Ag Summit from Bayer is also an interesting pool, because a lot of people also in our network got some additional contacts there. I think via Agustina, the World Farmers Organization has a huge network. Now, obviously, it depends a bit on the mission that you have. If it is really intended to influence a certain policy level, then you need structure. So then you need formal discussions to come out with a position so that it can be representative. If it's the added value of networking and individual growth on an interpersonal level, then I would say reach out as far as you go, because there is no limit there. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I don't know, is someone want to ask or say something? Lucas, do you want to speak?
I'm sorry, first of all, good morning, James. Good morning to everyone. I'm really sorry. I had a meeting that was not expected in my agenda, so I'm happy that it's being recorded. I will have a look at it later on. Just coming to say thanks for your time. Definitely, there's some useful stuff that will help us to move on. I just wanted to say I won't ask any question, because probably I will do a question that someone has already done. So just came to say good morning and thank you very much, mate, for your time.
It was my pleasure. It was my pleasure.
Thank you.
Our idea was to answer.
No, but I don't know. My question is actually if I think you have, I don't know how to say it specifically in English, but you have a level, or you are an organization with all the papers you need for, like you are officially a non-profit organization or something like that. Because if you, sorry. I have someone doing something.
I'll try to answer in the meanwhile. Yes, we are an official recognized organization at EU level. Which is important indeed, that we have the recognition also from the different political levels, that when we speak, we are acknowledged that we speak in the name of young farmers. Yeah.
Okay. We can close this meeting. Thank you, Janice, and thank you, Mariana, for your time. We wanted to squeeze your ideas and your experience, and hope my parents could enjoy and approach of this. Well, we keep in touch and let's smile for the picture. Wait.
Great. Also from my part, before you close, thank you a lot, Agustina, and all of you for a nice conversation. And if you need any more feedback, don't hesitate to ask. And from our part, a lot of success for your steps in the coming months.
Thank you. We will. Well, ready? Thank you, and well, see you.
Thanks. Have a good
Thank you
day.
very much, Dennis. Thank
Ciao,
you, Maya.
todos.
You guys have a great day.
You too.